Marketing. You hear that word like every single day, but what is it really? I can tell you what it's not. It's not just about flashy ads or those jingles you can't get out of your head. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and show you the whole fascinating system that connects ideas and products with people just like you. So let's dive right in.
All right, so here's the plan for today. First, we're going to tackle what marketing is not. Then we'll take a look at the world of markets. After that, we'll decode what's going on in the customer's mind. Then we'll see how companies create the perfect offer, how they connect those products to people, and finally, we'll wrap up with what the new marketing game looks like today.
Okay, first things first, let's totally redefine what marketing even is. Because, the real goal here, it's not just about selling you something, it's about creating and delivering genuine value.
So, let me ask you a question. When you hear the word marketing, what's the very first thing that pops into your head? Seriously, think about it. Is it some TV commercial you can't forget? Maybe a giant billboard you drive by every day? Or, I don't know, the logo on your favorite pair of sneakers?
And hey, if you thought of any of those things, you're not wrong at all. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. See, all those ads and logos, they're just the final visible part of a much, much deeper, more complex process. The real work, the interesting stuff, happens way before a single commercial ever gets made.
So if you want to understand that whole process, we've got to start by looking at the different, well, let's call them playgrounds where marketers operate. And these playgrounds are the markets.
You see, marketers can't just use a one-size-fits-all approach. They have to adapt to totally different customer markets, and there are really four big ones. You've got your consumer markets, that's for everyday stuff like shoes and cosmetics. Then there are business markets, which is all about companies selling to other companies. Of course, there are global markets where you're operating across different countries and cultures. And finally, you have nonprofit and government markets, which, have their own unique rules, especially when it comes to
And all these interactions happen in two main places. First, you've got the physical marketplace. Think of a store you can actually walk into. Then you have the digital market space. That's shopping online. It sounds like a simple difference, right? But it's absolutely crucial, especially now, when the lines between the physical and digital worlds are getting blurrier every single day. Okay, now for a really cool, kind of brainy concept. It's called a meta-market. And a meta-market isn't a place you can go to. Nope, it's more like an idea that exists in your head. It's this cluster of different products and services that your brain groups together around one single need, even if they come from totally different industries.
And the perfect example of this is the automobile metamarket. I mean, think about it. When you decide to buy a car, you're not just thinking about the car, are you? No way. You're thinking about the car manufacturers, the dealers, the financing companies, the insurance, the mechanics, maybe even car magazines. All of those are separate industries, but in your mind, they're all part of the car buying experience. That is a metamarket.
All right, so we've talked about where marketing happens. Now let's get to the good stuff, the why. And this is the absolute heart of it all. The core of every single thing in marketing is understanding the customer's mind.
And I want to start with what is probably the single most important idea in this entire explainer. This right here busts the biggest myth in marketing, and it's this. Marketers do not create needs. Read that again. They don't invent your need for stuff like food or shelter or feeling like you belong. Those are basic human requirements. They pre-exist marketers. They've always been there. So here's where it gets interesting. It's all about how those pre-existing needs get shaped. A need is the basic requirement, like needing food. A want is when that need gets directed at a specific object. So you don't just need food, you want a Philly cheesesteak. See the difference? And then a demand is a want that's backed up by the ability to actually pay for it. I mean, a lot of people might want a Mercedes, but only a few have the cash to turn that want into a real demand.
But wait, it goes even deeper than that. This is fascinating. A customer might say they want one thing, but they often mean 5 different things. Let's use the inexpensive car example. The stated need is simple. I want an inexpensive car. But the real need is probably something like, I want a car that won't cost me a fortune to run. Then there's the unstated need, which is the expectation of getting good service from the dealer. The delight need would be something extra, like, man, I'd love it if it came with a GPS. And then, my favorite, the secret need. This is the one they'd never say out loud, I want my friends to think I'm a smart shopper. The best marketers, they're trying to hear all 5 of these.
Okay, so companies get it. They understand these super complex customer needs. So what's their next move? How do they actually build an offer that responds to all of that and really resonates with people? Well, first off, they know they can't be everything to everyone.
It's just impossible. So they do something called segmentation. They basically slice up the entire market into smaller, more manageable chunks based on different things like demographics or behaviors. It's kind of like taking a giant, chaotic crowd and sorting them into smaller, neat circles of like-minded people.
Right, so once they have those circles, they still can't go after all of them. So the next step is targeting. This is where they look at all those different segments and make a strategic choice. They ask, okay, which of these groups presents the biggest opportunity for us? Which ones can we serve the best?
And that leads to the final piece of the strategy puzzle, positioning. This is all about creating a very specific idea, a specific image in the mind of that target customer. The classic example is Volvo. When you think Volvo, what's the first word that comes to mind? Safety, right? That is not an accident. That is the result of decades of brilliant, consistent positioning to own that one single idea inside your head.
So you can think of a company's positioning as its core promise, what marketers call a value proposition. But a promise is just words, right? It's intangible. They have to make it real. And they do that through an offering, which is the actual mix of products, services, information, and experiences that you can go out and buy. All right, so now we have this perfectly crafted offer for a very specific audience. The next big challenge is all about logistics. How do you actually get that offer into their hands? And just as importantly, how do you communicate what it's all about? To do this, marketers use 3 different kinds of channels. First are communication channels. These deliver and receive messages. Think TV, the internet, billboards, you name it. Second, you have distribution channels. These are what display, sell, or deliver the actual product, like a store or a website. And finally, there are service channels, which are the companies that help make the transaction happen, like banks or delivery services. And all of it is part of what we call the supply chain. This is really a much longer channel, the entire hidden journey a product takes. It starts all the way back with raw materials, goes through components, gets turned into finished products, then moves through wholesalers and retailers, all before it finally gets to the end buyer, you. So that's the classic marketing playbook in a nutshell. But the world is changing, right? And it's changing faster than ever. Things like new technology, globalization, and social responsibility are completely reshaping the field. It's a whole new ballgame out there. A great example of this is a company called TerraCycle. These guys are amazing. They've literally built a business around upcycling stuff that can't normally be recycled. They're turning old plastic bags into tote bags and used yogurt cups into plant holders. They saw an opportunity in what everyone else called waste, and by doing that, they're tapping into a huge shift in what consumers care about today. Or how about allrecipes.com? They became a giant in their space without spending a ton on old-school advertising. How? They didn't shout at people. They listened. They just created a platform where a community could share recipes with each other. Their whole success is built on user-generated content and the power of the internet. It's marketing that's really driven by the people, for the people. So now you've seen the whole system, right? The entire iceberg, not just the tiny tip. So I'll leave you with this question. Think about your favorite brands, the stuff you buy all the time. Why do you really buy it? Go back to those 5 needs we talked about. What unstated, delight, or even secret needs are those brands fulfilling for you? I bet if you really think about it, the answer might just surprise you.